6 months ago, I inherited my grandfather's handcrafted lakeside cabin, a place filled with cherished childhood memories. From summer fishing trips to holiday gatherings, this property meant everything to me. My brother-in-law, Jason, however, saw it differently. He constantly made remarks about wasted property and how he could put it to better use. Despite my firm refusals to his increasingly aggressive requests to use the cabin, nothing prepared me for what I discovered last weekend. I arrived to find a moving truck in my driveway and his pregnant girlfriend setting up a nursery in my house. Before I tell you how I handled this unbelievable invasion, let me know where you are watching from in the comments, and hit subscribe if you have ever had to deal with entitled family members who do not respect boundaries. My grandfather Robert Willis built our family cabin with his own hands back in 1978. I remember him telling me stories about hauling each timber up the hillside, working weekends and holidays for nearly 2 years until it was complete. The property sits on 5 acres of wooded land with 200 feet of private shoreline on Lake Evergreen. The 3-bedroom cabin itself is modest but beautiful, with exposed beams, a stone fireplace, and a wraparound porch that offers breathtaking sunset views over the water. From the age of 7, I spent every summer at that cabin. Grandpa taught me to fish off the private dock he built patiently, showing me how to bait a hook and cast a line. By 12, I was helping him with maintenance projects, learning carpentry skills as we replaced weathered deck boards and repaired window frames. Those moments shaped who I am today, instilling a work ethic and appreciation for craftsmanship that guided my career as an architect. As Grandpa aged, the cabin became our special connection. Even when my parents divorced and family gatherings grew tense, the cabin remained a sanctuary. During his final years, as cancer slowly took him, we would sit on the porch, swing, watching eagles soar over the lake. "This place has my heart in it, Grace," he would say. "I built it to last generations." In his will, Grandpa was specific the lakeside property would pass directly to me. At the reading, I noticed several surprised faces, including my sister Melanie. She had married Jason 3 years prior, and while she understood my connection to the cabin, I could see disappointment flash across her face. Jason made no attempt to hide his reaction, muttering something about wasted potential under his breath. Jason Williams had always been a financial tornado. In the 5 years I had known him, he had launched and abandoned 3 business ventures: a food truck, a drop-shipping website, and a crypto investment scheme. Each ended with maxed-out credit cards and borrowed money that was never repaid. Between ventures, he bounced between sales jobs, never lasting more than 8 months before quitting because management did not appreciate his vision. My first hint of trouble came just 2 months after the inheritance at a family birthday party. Jason cornered me by the grill, beer in hand. "That cabin must be worth, what, 600,000, 700? You should sell it to me at family discount. I could flip it into a vacation rental empire." When I explained I had no intention of selling, his friendly demeanor cooled. "Just sitting on it is wasteful, man. That place could be making serious cash." For the sake of my sister, I brushed it off. Melanie had always been my closest family member, and despite my concerns about her choice in husband, I wanted to maintain our relationship. But Jason continued making comments at every family gathering, calling the cabin my secret fortress, and asking if I was hoarding it all for myself. 6 months after the inheritance, Jason called me directly. "Grace, buddy, I need a favor. Things are tight right now and we need to downsize from our apartment. Could we use the cabin for a while? Just until my new business gets running." I politely declined, explaining that the cabin was my personal retreat, not a rental property. I offered to help them find an affordable apartment instead. The requests escalated over the following months. Text messages became phone calls. Casual mentions became demands. Family helps. Family became his mantra. Melanie started calling too, making excuses for Jason's behavior. "He is just stressed about money," she would say. "You know how he gets when he feels backed into a corner." I later discovered Jason had been telling our extended family that I was hoarding a property that should have been shared. My aunt called to ask why I was being so selfish with the family vacation home. I had to explain that the cabin was never a family vacation home, but my grandfather's private residence that he specifically left to me. The final conversation happened 2 weeks ago. Jason called on a Friday night, his voice oddly calm and reasonable. "Grace, I am going to level with you. We are in a really tough spot. The landlord is selling our building, and we have to be out by the end of the month. We just need the cabin for a few months. 3 tops." I took a deep breath before responding. "Jason, I am sorry about your situation, but the answer is still no. The cabin is not available to you. Period. I can help you find a new place or even loan you money for a security deposit, but you cannot stay at the cabin." He exploded. "You selfish jerk. You sit on an empty house while family struggles. What would your grandfather say?" Before I could respond, he hung up. Melanie texted me an apology later that night, promising they would find another solution. I decided I needed some time at the lake to decompress. Work had been particularly stressful with a major project deadline looming. A weekend of solitude by the water would clear my head. I informed no one of my plans, wanting to avoid any family drama. This turned out to be my first mistake. The 3-hour drive to Lake Evergreen normally calms me. The route winds through pine forests and small towns, gradually leaving the noise and pressure of city life behind. That Friday afternoon was no different, and by the time I turned onto the private gravel road leading to the cabin, my shoulders had finally relaxed and my breathing had slowed. That serenity shattered the moment I rounded the final bend. A large, white moving truck blocked most of my driveway, its rear doors open wide. Beside it sat a car I recognized immediately as Jason's blue Mazda. My stomach dropped as confusion gave way to anger. I parked on the grass and approached slowly, hoping there was some explanation that would make sense. Perhaps Jason was dropping something off. Maybe this was some kind of bizarre surprise party. The rational part of my brain struggled to process what I was seeing. 2 men in moving company uniforms carried a leather sectional sofa up my front steps. Through the open door, I could hear voices inside, including Jason's distinctive laugh. I followed the movers into my own home, my presence initially unnoticed in the commotion. Jason stood in the center of my living room, directing traffic like a conductor. "The sectional goes against that wall. We will put the TV where that bookshelf is." He finally noticed me and had the audacity to look only mildly surprised. "Oh, hey, you are early. We are still getting set up." I stood speechless. My living room had been rearranged with my furniture pushed into corners to make way for what was clearly their furniture. The rustic decor that matched the cabin's character was disrupted by modern pieces that looked straight out of an IKEA showroom. A young woman with auburn hair and a visibly pregnant belly emerged from the hallway. "Babe, where do you want me to put the baby clothes we already have?" She noticed me and smiled warmly. "Oh, hi. You must be Grace. I have heard so much about you. I am Melissa." The casual way she greeted me, as if I were a expected guest in my own home, added another layer of surreal to the situation. Jason stepped forward, throwing an arm around my shoulder. "Grace is my brother-in-law. He is letting us stay here while we get back on our feet." "Right, Grace," I shrugged his arm off. "No, that is absolutely not right." I turned to Melissa. "I have no idea what Jason told you, but no one has permission to be here." Her smile faltered. "But Jason said this was his family cabin, and that you were fine with us using it since you live in the city." My anger boiled over. "I need to see what else you have done to my house." I pushed past Jason and walked down the hallway, each new discovery more infuriating than the last. The master bedroom, my grandfather's room that I had preserved with his handmade furniture, now held Jason and Melissa's king-sized bed. Their clothes already filled the closet, and framed photos of them sat on the antique dresser. The guest room was mid-transformation into a nursery. A partially assembled crib stood in the center, surrounded by boxes of baby items. The walls that once held my grandmother's watercolor paintings were now bare with paint swatches taped up instead. Most painful was my grandfather's study. His old desk, where he taught me to draw blueprints, had been pushed against the wall to make room for a gaming setup. The bookshelves that held his collection of woodworking guides now displayed Jason's sports memorabilia. I returned to the living room where Jason was attempting to soothe an increasingly distressed Melissa. "How did you even get in here?" I demanded. Jason shrugged. Melanie still had her copy of the keys from when your grandfather was sick. I made duplicates. You broke in. You are trespassing. I turned to Melissa. How long was he planning to stay here? Her eyes widened. Until we get back on our feet. Jason said at least until the baby starts school, so we could save for a down payment on our own place. 5 years. You planned to live in my house for 5 years without my permission. I stared at Jason, who finally had the decency to look uncomfortable. Look, Grace, you are being ridiculous, he said, switching to a placating tone. This place sits empty most of the time. You are in the city working. We are family, and family helps family. Would you really put Melissa out on the street in her condition? The manipulation was so blatant it almost took my breath away. He had created this situation, lied to this pregnant woman, and now was using her condition to guilt me. You did this, not me, I said quietly. You created this mess by lying to everyone involved. Jason's face hardened. We are not leaving. We have already started moving in. The truck is paid for the day. Then I am calling the police. I pulled out my cell phone and walked onto the porch to report trespassers on my property. Jason followed me, his voice rising. You would call the cops on your own family. What kind of person does that? He made a grab for my phone, but I stepped back. Touch me or my phone, and I will add assault to the trespassing charges I warned already, dialing 911. Jason kicked a porch chair and stormed back inside, shouting to Melissa that I was being unreasonable and they should continue unpacking while I calmed down. I completed the call, explaining to the dispatcher that I had unauthorized people moving into my vacation property. Then, I sat on the porch steps trembling with anger and disbelief, waiting for the police to arrive. 2 patrol cars pulled up 27 minutes later. Given the remote location, I was surprised they arrived so quickly. 4 officers approached cautiously, clearly having dealt with property disputes before. I stood to meet them, introducing myself as the property owner. We received a call about trespassers, the lead officer said. Can you explain the situation? I showed them my driver's license and property deed, explaining that my brother-in-law had made copies of keys without permission and was moving in despite my explicit refusal. As we spoke, Jason emerged from the house, immediately launching into his version of events. This is a family misunderstanding, officers, he said with forced cheerfulness. I am his brother-in-law. This cabin has been in the family for generations. The officers looked between us. Do you have documentation showing you have a right to be here, sir? One asked Jason. I do not need documentation. We are family. My wife is his sister. This is family property. Jason's confident facade was cracking slightly. The property deed is solely in Mr. Willis's name, the officer replied, after examining my paperwork. If he wants you to leave, you need to leave. This is a civil matter, but it could become criminal trespassing if you refuse. Jason's face reddened. You cannot kick us out. We have nowhere to go. My girlfriend is pregnant. His voice rose with each sentence. Sir, please lower your voice, another officer warned. You need to make arrangements to leave the property today. As this confrontation unfolded, Melissa appeared in the doorway, tears streaming down her face. Jason, you told me this was all arranged. You said Grace was happy to let us stay here. The moving crew had stopped working, standing awkwardly by their truck. The lead mover approached me. Sir, we were hired to complete a move today. We cannot just leave the furniture in our truck. I understand, I said. This is not your fault. Let me figure something out. Jason was now frantically calling my sister. I could hear him through the phone. Melanie, you need to come now. Grace is freaking out for no reason. He called the cops on me. While officers continued speaking with Jason, I approached Melissa. I am truly sorry about this situation. Did you not know this was happening without permission? She wiped tears away. Jason told me his sister's brother owned a family cabin that was sitting empty. He said you were happy to let family use it since you have a nice condo in the city. She placed a protective hand on her belly. We lost our apartment because Jason could not make rent. He promised me this place was the answer to our problems. My anger toward Jason grew, but I felt only sympathy for Melissa. How far along are you? I asked gently. 7 months, she replied. We are having a girl. An hour later, Melanie's car pulled into the already crowded driveway. She rushed toward us, confusion evident on her face. When she spotted Melissa, she stopped abruptly. "Who is this woman, Jason?" Jason paled. "This is Melissa. She is a friend who needed help. I told you about her." Melanie turned to Melissa. "You are pregnant." Melissa looked between them, realization dawning. "You must be Melanie Jason's sister." The silence that followed was deafening. Melanie turned to Jason, her voice dangerously quiet. "His sister Jason told me he was divorced," Melissa said, her voice small. What followed was a cascading revelation of lies. Jason had been leading a double life for nearly a year, telling Melissa he was divorced and wealthy with family property. Meanwhile, he had been borrowing money from Melanie's parents, claiming it was for a business venture. The cabin scheme was apparently his plan to solve his housing crisis while continuing both relationships. My parents arrived next, having received frantic calls from both Melanie and Jason's parents. The family drama unfolded across my front lawn, with neighbors from nearby properties now watching with undisguised interest. The moving truck sat half unloaded, the movers, clearly wanting to leave but contractually unable to do so. "I will pay you to finish for the day," I finally told the moving crew chief. "Just put everything in your storage facility temporarily." It cost me $800 I would never see again, but it removed one problem from the chaos. As evening approached, decisions had to be made. The police had warned Jason about trespassing, but could not force him to leave without a formal eviction process, which would be unnecessary if he left voluntarily. Jason's parents finally arrived, and after seeing the full situation, stopped defending their son, and instead offered to take him back to their house. For Melissa, I arranged a hotel room for the weekend. "This is not your fault," I told her as I handed her the reservation. "Take some time to figure out your next steps." The gratitude and humiliation in her eyes made me hate Jason even more. Melanie was broken. Her marriage had imploded spectacularly, and she alternated between rage and despair. "Can I stay here tonight?" she asked me quietly. "I cannot go home with him." Of course I agreed. As twilight settled over the lake, the property finally cleared. The police left with warnings to Jason about returning. Jason departed with his parents, still making self-pitying comments about family loyalty. Melissa left for her hotel, a social worker's number in hand that one of the female officers had provided. I changed the locks immediately, making a mental note to install a security system as soon as possible. After everyone left, Melanie and I sat on the dock watching the sunset in stunned silence. The peaceful scene contrasted sharply with the day's chaos, but neither of us could appreciate it. "I am so sorry," Melanie finally said, her voice raw from crying. I had no idea what he was planning. I did not even know about Melissa. I put my arm around my sister's shoulders. "This is not your fault. Jason did this, not you." As darkness fell over Lake Evergreen, we sat together, siblings united in shock, betrayal, and the uncertain path ahead. The month following what my family now calls the cabin incident brought significant changes to all our lives. Melanie moved into my city apartment, while I temporarily relocated to the cabin. The familiar surroundings helped me process the violation I had experienced, while giving her space to begin divorce proceedings against Jason. Those first weeks revealed the full extent of Jason's deceptions. He had been seeing Melissa for nearly a year, creating an elaborate fiction about his life. To Melissa, he was a successful entrepreneur, temporarily down on his luck. To Melanie, he was a devoted husband, working late hours on a new business opportunity. The truth, as bank statements revealed, was that he had been unemployed for months, draining their savings while living a double life. Jason continued his manipulation tactics, portraying himself as the victim to extended family. Grace threw a pregnant woman out of the cabin, he told our cousins. He would rather keep a house empty than help family. Some relatives believed him, calling me to express their disappointment. Others, who had witnessed Jason's patterns over years, saw through the deception immediately. I chose to focus my energy on helping those truly harmed by Jason's actions. For Melissa, I connected her with resources for single mothers and affordable housing programs. She had been as deceived as anyone, believing she was building a life with a divorced man of means. When paternity was confirmed, she began pursuing child support, though Jason's unemployment made immediate payment unlikely. The cabin itself needed reclaiming. I spent weekends removing the marks of Jason's invasion, repainting walls, and returning my grandfather's furniture to its proper place. I rehung family photos and restored his study exactly as it had been. Each act of restoration helped heal my sense of violation. New security measures became a priority. Beyond changing locks, I installed a comprehensive camera system covering all approaches to the property. A modern alarm system replaced the simple deadbolts my grandfather had considered sufficient. The local police added the cabin to their regular patrol route after hearing the full story. Perhaps the most meaningful recovery came through family healing. Melanie and I grew closer through this crisis, our sibling bond strengthened by shared betrayal. She showed remarkable resilience, channeling her anger into productive action. Within weeks, she had filed for divorce, secured a new job with better pay, and begun therapy to process the relationship trauma. "I keep thinking I should have seen it coming," she told me during a quiet evening at the cabin 6 weeks after the incident. "There were so many red flags." "Manipulative people are experts at making you doubt yourself," I replied. "This is on him, not you." As summer arrived, I organized a small gathering at the cabin for family members who had supported us. The weekend became a reclaiming ritual, filling the space with new positive memories. My cousin Daniel brought his fishing gear, and we spent hours on the dock, just as Grandpa and I had done. My parents divorced, but Civil both attended, united in their concern for Melanie and anger toward Jason. I found myself sharing stories about Grandpa, pointing out features of the cabin he had crafted by hand. "See how these beams join," I showed my younger cousins. He did that without modern power tools, just the techniques his father taught him. It felt like honoring his legacy in the most appropriate way. Jason, meanwhile, continued his downward spiral. According to mutual acquaintances, he was couch surfing between increasingly reluctant friends. His parents, initially supportive, grew tired of his refusal to take responsibility. Job interviews resulted in no offers, possibly due to reference checks. He still contacted Melanie, occasionally alternating between guilt trips and reconciliation attempts, all of which she documented for her divorce attorney. Melissa gave birth to a healthy baby girl in late summer. She sent me a brief thank you note with a photo expressing gratitude for my kindness during a terrible time. She had secured subsidized housing and was starting community college classes online, determined to provide stability for her daughter. I admired her strength and sent a small gift for the baby, careful to maintain appropriate boundaries while supporting her fresh start. By fall, the legal matters were concluding. Melanie's divorce moved swiftly given the evidence of Jason's deception. My attorney created a formal legal document regarding the cabin, clearly stating terms of use and specifically excluding Jason from the property permanently. This documentation was shared with local authorities to prevent any future misunderstandings. Looking back now, I see how this painful experience clarified what truly matters. The cabin is not just property, but a connection to my grandfather and our shared history. Protecting it was not selfish, but necessary, preserving something authentic against someone who saw it only as a resource to exploit. Melanie and I have started a new tradition of monthly family dinners at the cabin, keeping the connection alive for the next generation. When she is ready to date again, she jokes that I get veto power over any potential partners. "No con artists this time," she says, her humor returning gradually. As for me, I have learned that setting boundaries even with family is not just acceptable but essential. Saying no to unreasonable demands is not selfish, despite what manipulators claim. Sometimes the most caring action is maintaining your boundaries, even when others push against them. Have you ever had to stand up to entitled family members who crossed your boundaries? Share your experience in the comments below so others can learn from your strength. If this story resonated with you, please hit the subscribe button and like this video so others dealing with similar boundary crossers can find support here. Consider sharing this with someone who might need permission to protect what is rightfully theirs from those who feel entitled to take it. Thank you for listening to my story. And remember that while family is precious, healthy boundaries make lasting family relationships possible.